Hi, my name is Kaya and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Caitlin and I use any pronouns. For those of you who don't know, using any pronouns means that a person is fine with being referred to with, well, any pronouns. People also often use she, they, or he, they sets of pronouns. This means that they use the pronouns she, her, hers, or he, him, his, as well as they, them, theirs. So, she, they pronoun users use she, her, hers, and they, them, theirs, and he, they pronoun users use he, him, his, and they, them, theirs. We are Scouts from 2067, and we've been working on our Silver Award for a long time now.
Our Silver Award is about awareness and understanding of the LGBTQ+ community.
We'd like to thank everybody on Trevor Space who helped us out with this project and everybody else who helped us along the way.
Also Google. We'd like to thank Google for aiding our research into the LGBTQ+ community. We've learned a lot these past months.
And on that note, let's begin. What is LGBTQ+? It is an acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer and questioning, and inclusive. This is the lesbian flag, gay flag, bi flag, trans flag, and some more historical flags for the community.
But what do those terms mean? These are the long definitions. Feel free to pause the video and read through them if you wish. But essentially, lesbian means girl loving girl, gay means boy loving boy, bisexual means any gender loving a combination of genders. Transgender is when someone doesn't identify as their SAB. We'll talk about what SAB is later. Queer is an umbrella term for people in the LGBTQ+ community, but it's basically someone who is not straight and or cisgender. Questioning is when someone is unsure of how they identify. And inclusive means all identities not mentioned previously, and they're all included.
We'd like to highlight that gay is often used as a general term for anyone who likes someone of their same sex or is a part of the LGBT+ community in general. So lesbians will often refer to themselves as gay sometimes. Queer is another broad term used by the LGBTQ+ community to refer to members of the community. However, it was only recently that it was reclaimed from being used as a derogatory term. One of the people who helped us with this project said, "Language is as fluid as a person's identities. Many words have been reclaimed by communities so they aren't used derogatorily." Transsexual is an outdated term. It originated in the medical and physiological field, but it is now outdated to use unless someone tells you it is their identity and what they would like to be referred to as. Transgender is the more common term and the one you should use if someone says they are trans without specifying if they are transgender or transsexual. We'd also like to highlight what an ally is. An ally is typically a straight, cis person who supports the LGBTQ+ community. However, the A in LGBTQIA does not stand for ally. It stands for agender, aromantic, or asexual, and so allies are an ally to the community. They are not a part of the community. Before we get into the next slide, let's talk about gender.
Gender refers to the cultural concept that reflects the ideas of male, female, masculine, and feminine. However, gender is not only confined to the two genders of the binary. Many people look at gender in many different ways. We'll go into more detail about what gender is later in this video, but for the next slide, we are referring to someone's gender identity, the gender they identify as when we say gender.
Homosexual describes a person who is attracted to someone of their same gender. This is either gay or lesbian, whereas homoflexible describes a person who is predominantly homosexual but not exclusively so. Homoflexible is an uncommonly used term, but it is still worth mentioning. Here is the straight ally flag. Heterosexual describes a person who is attracted to someone of their opposite gender. This is straight. Heteroflexible describes a person who is predominantly heterosexual, but not exclusively so. And here is the progress flag. Like homoflexible, heteroflexible is not a very commonly used term, but it is again worth mentioning.
The term fluidity refers to having one's sexual orientation or gender identity not being continuous throughout their life and changing fluidly. As shown in the gender bread diagram, identities and identity expressions are all separate. Gender identities, biological sex, and gender expression all are separate aspects of a person. They are all also separate from a person's sexuality. For example, many drag kings and queens who are people who dress up to express a certain gender identify as cisgender but appreciate the fact that gender identity and gender expression are separate, so they can express what gender they wish. The definition of sexual orientation is a person's identity in relation to the gender or genders to which they are sexually attracted. the fact of being heterosexual, homosexual, etc. But basically, sexual orientation is an identity that describes who someone is sexually attracted to.
Sexual attraction and romantic attraction. Sexual attraction is attraction sexually, which is specifically about attraction and the things people do with their bodies and the things they do with their bodies, while romantic attraction is attraction romantically, the mental and emotional bond between people. Because sexual attraction and romantic attraction are different, someone can be sexually attracted to one gender or a combination of genders, but romantically attracted to other genders or mixes of the same genders. For example, biromantic pan or biromantic pansexual describes a person who is attracted to a combination of genders romantically, but is blind to gender when it comes to their sexual attraction. Pansexual is a person who is attracted to everyone and does not notice someone's gender when falling for them. What is coming out? Coming out is when a member of the LGBTQ+ community tells someone that they are a member of the LGBTQ+ community. The closet is the metaphorical place someone is before they come out. When someone hasn't told people about their identity or come out, they are hiding that identity in the closet with them. So coming out of the closet is another phrase used to refer to coming out.
What is so scary about coming out? Coming out can be scary because there is fear of rejection or pain caused by others who don't appreciate the person who came out for being who they are and true to themselves. In some countries, being LGBTQ+ can give you the death penalty, so coming out can prove dangerous as well. The thought of not being accepted by one's family or friends or people they've known all their life is really scary, so coming out is very scary as well.
How do you support someone who is coming out? To support someone coming out, voice that you accept them, let them know that you are there for them, maybe even come out to them yourself if you are a member of the LGBTQ+ community. Assure them that you are there for them and appreciate their courage to be true to themselves with not just words, but actions as well. Saying you support someone and then telling them you shouldn't say that so loud, or you can't get a pride flag because it's not like straight people go around yelling that they're straight, is not supportive. Actions are just as powerful, even more, than words. If a friend comes out to you or someone your age, don't assume they are coming out because they like you. They might, but don't comment on that unless they tell you that they do like you. Don't volunteer to tell someone's family or friends for them. They get to decide when they are ready to tell people and how they want to tell them. Don't tell someone coming out to you, "Oh, sorry, but I don't think I can ever think of you as a gender other than a girl, boy, or whatever their SAAB is." Or, "I just don't feel comfortable being friends with you when there is a chance you could be attracted to me." Even if you mean no offense, those are hurtful words. A few tips for coming out.
Tips for coming out. Do tell someone you can trust. Consider your family or friends' opinions to LGBTQ+ people before coming out to them and talk to people who are already out. Don't forget that there are people there for you, teachers and doctors. Don't come out because someone else says you should. And don't come out just because you have a partner or significant other. Doing so might make it seem like being LGBTQ+ is just a phase that will go away with the loss of that partner.
When deciding how to come out, consider the situation and decide whether or not it is appropriate to come out by text, because depending on the situation, it might not seem as sincere if you do. This also applies to coming out just because you have a partner.
What is a stereotype? A stereotype is something that is assumed to be true about a group, person, or thing, but it's oversimplified and is not necessarily true to apply to the entire group. These are some common and untrue stereotypes of the LGBTQ+ community. Let's see. Gay men are pedophiles. That is definitely not true. I don't see.
Gay men like other gay men. It doesn't make any sense to have that stereotype.
That's
Again, a lot of the stereotypes aren't true. They're based from often they're based from assumptions, but
and fear.
And not understanding. But here are some common stereotypes. You can't be LGBTQ+ and religious. Being LGBTQ+ and religious can go hand in hand. While some religions do not approve of the LGBTQ+ community, even then, someone can be both religious and a member of the LGBTQ+ community. Also, religions and social concepts, they can grow, and they are growing everything is evolving at all times. All trans people are gay. Being trans does not necessarily make someone gay. For example, the main character in The Bride Was a Boy by Chi, a great book that I highly recommend, is a trans woman who is straight. She was born in a male body, but is a woman who marries a man. The term super straight is the preference of the opposite gender, but only if they were assigned that gender at birth. Large groups of people who have adopted the term are claiming that it is a sexual orientation. Basically, those who use the term are saying that they're against being in a romantic relationship with someone who is transgender. Being super straight can come off as being straighter than someone who dates a trans person. However, it is important to know that super straight is a transphobic term because it implies that trans women and trans men are not real women and not real men. Transphobia is the fear, hatred, or discomfort people feel when coming in contact with transgender people. This would be an example of discomfort. Super straight is transphobic because, as it implies that trans men are not real men and trans women are not real women, it also implies that to be a certain gender, you must have a body of that gender. But as mentioned before with the genderbread person, gender identity and sex are separate. Because super straight is transphobic, it is not recognized as a real identity for people to identify as.
What is gender? This is a really big and complicated question that we could talk about for a very long time, but we're going to simplify. While sex is the biological and physiological aspect of being one of the binary genders, male or female, gender is the social construct of what it is to be one which gender and the social expectations of that gender. Sex versus gender. Stereotypically, gender is defined as male or female, which are the binary genders. It refers to the cultural ideas that make someone male or female. However, gender is looked at in many different ways, not just the binary. Some people consider the gender with stages in between and outside the binary, and some people consider gender to be completely fluid, one big mess of many different genders, combinations of genders, and lack of gender.
SAB is the acronym for sex assigned at birth. Your SAB is essentially the gender that your genitals make people assume you will be. Also, body parts should not be seen as necessarily male and female because science has proven that more than those two sexes exist. For example, intersex people are individuals born with the characteristics that do not match the male or female binary sexes. People can have many different sets of chromosomes that are not necessarily male or female. Cisgender describes a person whose gender identity aligns with their SAB, the gender they were assigned at birth. Girls who were born with a female body and boys who were born with a male body.
Gender pronouns. Gender pronouns are the pronouns used by an individual to help them express their gender identity. Commonly known or used pronouns include she, her, hers, he, him, his, and they, them, theirs. However, you aren't limited to the pronouns mentioned above. Pick pronouns that make you feel good, even if that means trying some out or creating some new ones. And a book titled How Do They Them by Stuart Getty mentions that people's gender pronouns are not preferred pronouns. They are just gender pronouns because it's not like someone prefers a gender. They just are one.
Gender reaffirming surgery. Gender reaffirming surgeries are surgeries that can change someone's body characteristics so that they match those of the gender they identify with. Surgery is not the only thing. Hormones can also be given to people who are transitioning genders. However, hormones can be given to people who do not want the gender reaffirming surgery but do want the hormone part of the transition. Estrogen for male to females and testosterone for female to males. Remember, a person does not have to have gender reaffirming surgery to be transgender or genderqueer. They get to choose if they want to do it or not. And if they choose not to, it makes them no less the gender they identify as. Another way to help... It can be difficult to understand at first, but it gets easier, and it's worth it. But they is grammatically incorrect, using they, them, theirs pronouns. When conjugating, leave the same conjugation for they. It can be still used as a singular pronoun while having the same conjugation. So, here are some conjugation charts. You just, instead of using he, she, he or she, or he, him, his, or she, hers, you just use they, them, theirs. It's a single person. It's like, another way to help you understand this is think about how everyone has everybody has used it without thinking about it. When you find a lost jacket, or anything really, the typical thought is, oh no, someone lost their jacket. They must be cold. I hope I can find someone to return this jacket to them. They, them, theirs pronouns are used all the time, singularly.
And overall, And overall, when someone comes out to you, respect them and trust in them. Respect their pronouns, call them by their gender pronouns, and respect that they can pick their own life partners. Respect definition. Due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others.
Here are the activities for any scouts who would like to get our patch. The requirements are to take an implicit bias test, listen to a moth story, make a word cloud, and watch this video.
We thank you all for sticking around until the end.